Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarvavignopashantaye. Om. Dear friends, we were seeing that Arjuna was having a sort of ethical doubt. And if one has to clarify that ethical doubt, Krishna cannot say you do this, you do that, etc. Krishna has to give him a proper understanding of what ethics is. And we know that our understanding of ethics depends on what is our idea of that, what is that reality, supreme reality. So basically, the ethics or dharma depends on our idea of what is that supreme reality. Ethics actually flow from our idea of that supreme reality. So he has been giving an idea of what exactly is Atma, what is this whole Jiva, what you call Jiva. Arjuna was thinking that, all these people are going to they are going to die, I am going to kill all of them. So he was thinking like that. So Krishna, it is Krishna's duty to tell him what is the nature, what exactly is the reality. So that is what he has been saying. And we were reading the 22nd sloka of second adhyaya, the second adhyaya Sankhya Yoga, 22nd sloka we were reading, that is Vasamsi Jirnani Yatha Vihaya Navani Grunhati Naroparani Tatha Sharirani Vihaya Jirnani Anyani Sanyati Navani Dehi. I just gave a general meaning of this thing, that is this sloka, that is just as a person discards some old clothes and puts on some other new clothes. So similarly, this Dehi, whatever is that embodied self as we call it, Dehi means that which is in the Deha is what is called Dehi. The embodied self. Embodied means that which is having a body is embodied. Embodied self is something which discards this body and takes another body. For listening it is okay, quite okay. But how to rationally understand it? If we want to rationally understand it, we have to see a little bit of what our metaphysics and what our Vedanta says. And in fact, it is surprising to see that our Upanishads, they have got a very, very rational approach to explain all these things. How do you rationally explain? I have given you a general idea of what exactly is what is called the supreme reality. According to our Upanishads, the supreme reality or God is not a person, but it is a universally existing, or rather infinitely existing consciousness. And what is that Jiva? For that, if you can refer to a book called Yoga Vasishta, there is a second portion of that book which is called Sthiti Prakaranam. And in that, it gives a very beautiful example of an ocean. Suppose you visualize this whole consciousness as a sort of ocean. And in that ocean, I suppose a mighty wave, for some reason a mighty wave comes up. And that mighty wave, it suddenly thinks, yes, I have got a shape. It suddenly gets the notion of I. That notion or feeling of I, that is what is the beginning point for creation. Otherwise, it is a massive ocean. It is a mass of water, which is ocean, which doesn't have any shape or anything. Suddenly, some sort of name and form appears. And name and form appears, and in this ocean, a mighty wave forms. And that mighty wave is what we call some creator or something like that, which is called, otherwise we call it a cosmic mind. And from that cosmic mind, like small ripples and some small bubbles, etc., all the beings, they come out. So that is what that example is given. That ego is something, ego or will as you call it, I, that notion of I, you call it ego, you call it will, that is the starting point of the creation, that will. And because of that will, the so-called linga sharira or this whole body comes up. At the cosmic level, the body is, if you say that if you visualize that cosmic mind, the cosmic body is what the whole cosmos which you see. And at the individual level, for the individual mind, the body is the physical body which we are having. So that is how that example, you can see that for some more details, that particular chapter in the second portion of that Yoga Vasishta, Sthiti Prakaranam. If I remember well, if you can go through chapters from 42nd to 46, 47 up to that point, it explains how that will is something which creates the body-mind complex. It is the will which creates the body. That means it is the mind which creates the body. It is a very, very nice explanation is given there. So just by way of explanation, we should not think that it is something, some sort of superstition, some sort of something which, okay, Krishna is saying, some sage Vyasa has said and we have to accept it. That is one point of view. But if we want to rationally understand, so that is the reason why they say, So long as this ego does not die, this reincarnation goes on and on and on. Because that will, it doesn't die. Even a 90-year-old man keeps thinking about his share market and his properties and whatnot. So that person, naturally, after the fall of the body, he is actually repenting for the fall of this body. So naturally, that will would like to have another body. So it goes on and on. And only a person who realizes that this is something, this is whatever exists is that pure consciousness. So that ego dissolves in that consciousness. So ego merges in that consciousness. Once that ego goes away, then there is no need for another body. That is the reason why they say a realized person does not have any rebirth. So this is a simple thing which we have to understand. Okay. So anyani sanyati navani dehi. So depending on whatever is the karma phala, new body, how does it come? New body, it comes, it depends on whatever karma this gentleman has done, whatever samskaras are there in the mind. In fact, the mind, what is the mind actually? Mind is the thing which is transmigrating into another body. I told you that what is called linga sharira, the most prominent thing in that linga sharira is the mind. And mind is a bundle of all the samskaras, all impressions which are there in our mind, of various our ideas, our concepts of love, hate, greed, etc., etc. All these things put together, they are there. They determine our future behavior. So this is the thing which transmigrates into another body, and those samskaras gradually reappear in that body. So that is what we see. Then the next shloka, next shloka is talking about, Krishna is talking about how Atma is something which is different from this Linga Sharira, or the subtle body as we call it. Atma is something apart from what we call Deha, what we call Stula Sharira or Sukshma Sharira. Atma is something which is eternal. Atma is purely of the nature of consciousness. So that is what he is saying in the next few shlokas. Next few shlokas up to 25 or 26, or rather 25. From 11 to 25, what we see is what is called Atma Tattva Vichara, the nature of that supreme reality, and how this jiva, or what we call the individuated consciousness, technically speaking, we have to use a big word called individuated consciousness, is the same as that supreme consciousness. Like the pot, suppose you take a pot, they give another example of a pot. So a pot, if you suppose you keep it like that, in the pot again there is space. When you destroy the space, that pot space, it is not different from, even without the destruction, the pot space is not different from the vast space which is outside. And when the pot is destroyed, naturally the space becomes part and parcel of the infinite space. So that is another example which is given. So this, the 23rd shloka, let us read. It says, Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapo, na shoshayati marutaha. These are certain shlokas which most of us we do learn by heart. But of course, we have to, if we just see the implication, the way, the import which is there in that, it is something which is amazing. Na enam chindanti shastrani. Nainam is na enam chindanti shastrani. That is physically, shastram is any physical object. There are two words called shastram and astram. We see in books like Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. We see this is the things called somebody Arjuna or somebody uses some particular astram. So astram is something which is which is associated with chanting of a mantra. There is some sort of magic formula, let us say, some sort of formula is there. Along with that, he throws that astram. Whereas Shastra is something which he holds in his hand. Shastra is something which he holds in his hand and then fights. So it is something which is physical. So Shastram is something which is not going to affect it. It is not going to do any harm to this Atma. Because Atma, if it were to be another body, physical body only, it is going to affect it. Suppose the physical body is there. The physical body is okay. If you take a sword and cut the body, it is cut into pieces. But what Krishna is saying is, what is cut into pieces is not the Atma. What is cut into pieces is the physical body, and Atma is something which is totally different from that. He says, Nainam chindanti shastrani, Nainam dahati pavakaha. Pavakaha means fire. So he has talked about Shastram, which is a product of the earth. Now he is talking about the fire, earth, fire. Then the next thing is water. Nachainam kledayantyapo apaha. Apaha means waters. Water is again, we know that there are 5 elements. If you observe the whole universe, we should not think of Mendeleev's table and the table of that elements, table of elements, where about 140 or something like that. So many things are there in that Mendeleev's table. We are not talking about that Mendeleev's table, because all those things, what all he talks of, they come under one or two categories only. So they, broadly speaking, if you see the whole universe, it is whole universe. We see what is called space, infinite space, and what we see as air, and there is what is called fire. That is another aspect, and there is what is called water or fluid. You call it fluid or water. Then the hard surface, the five, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, water and fire. So these five elements are there. Of course, some philosophers, some people, they accept only four elements. For example, in Western philosophy, they accept only four elements. They have not gone to the extent of, we need not say, because from their own logic, they accept only four. Whereas our people, they said, beyond this air and what we call air, there is another infinite space. So Akasha is one very great, in my view, it is a very great discovery by our Upanishadic rishis. Discovery means it is some intuition. It is basically an intuitively they have told so many things. It is like some thought experiment I was telling you the other day. So intuitively they have also they have felt that there is something called Akasha or space beyond what is called air. So anyway, Nainam Chandanti Shastrani Nainam Dahati Pavakaha. Pavaka is that fire. Nachainam Kledayanti Apaha. Apaha means waters. Waters again do not soak it. You put anything in water, it gets soaked, isn't it? So this Atma is something which is not affected by Shastram, that is earth. It is not affected by fire, not affected by Apaha, Nashoshayati Marutaha. It is not affected by the wind. Wind, of course, the wind is blowing. So naturally things, they also get dry up. Shoshanam is getting dried. So that also is not there. When all these four are told, naturally Akasha also gets included. So Akasha, all these things, these five elements, they do not affect. Why? Because Atma again is that infinite consciousness in which all these things have appeared. All these things are appearances in that infinite consciousness. So these things which have appeared in that, they are not going to affect that particular Atma. Then the next shloka also is like that. Achedyoyam adahyoyam akledyo shoshya evacha nityas sarvagatasthānuhu achaloyam sanatanaha. Achedyaha. Shedanam is cutting. Shedanam is cutting. Achedyaha means that which cannot be cut. Then adahyaha. Adahyaha means dahanam. Dahanam means burning. Adahyaha means that which cannot be burnt. Something similar to what he said earlier. Achedyoyam adahyoyam. Akledyaha. He is repeating because it is something which is very important. Akledyaha means which cannot be soaked. Then ashoshya evacha. Ashoshyaha. It cannot be dried up. And nityaha sarvagataha sthanuhu. So these are the important words. Nitya. Nitya means something which is eternal. I was telling you about your existence and my existence. Our existence is totally delimited by three things. That is, I am delimited by time, I am delimited by space, and delimited by being a particular object. These three types of limitations I explained, I think, once or twice earlier. So Nityaha, something which is beyond all these limitations, that is beyond time. In fact, all the things, the whole universe is within time. In fact, kalam itself, time, in fact, the analysis of time or the concept of time is something which is fantastic in our, as we see in the Upanishads. Time is something which, time is there only when there is an observer. When there is no observer, there is no time. When there is no observer or when there is no srushti, there is no time. So that is the reason why I say Maya Kalpita Desha Kala Kalana Vaishitra Chitri Krutam, says Shankaracharya in that Dakshinamurti Stotra, Maya Kalpita Desha Kala Kalana. So all these things, they have just come into picture or they become relevant only when that Srushti is there. When the Srushti is there means there is what is called an intelligence which is observing. Earlier also there is intelligence, but which is beyond that observing, knowing, knowledge, etc. That thing is not there. That activity of knowing is not there. Pure consciousness, in pure consciousness there is no activity called knowing. It is only at the level of creator. When we say it is a creator, then the word like knowing, etc. comes into picture. When that knower is there, then there is time. So Desha, Kala, Kalana, it starts at that time. So here Nityaha means something which is eternal, which is going beyond that creator and whatnot. It is going beyond that, or that say the universal observer or creator. Then Sarvagataha. Sarvagata means it is there always, it is there everywhere. Sarvagata, that is which is there everywhere. That means all pervading or infinite as we call it. Some more slokas are like that, one or two more slokas are like this. So we have to put up with these words because again and again for some time there is some relief because Krishna is going to talk about what we know about daily activity, our human activity, karma, etc. He is going to talk about which we are very familiar. So only here, because he is talking about Atma Tattva Vichara, Atma Tattva, the nature of Atma, such words are used. Sarvagata means that which is infinite. Sthanu. Sthanu again is actually a word which is cognate with the English word called stone. Sanskrit word sthanu is cognate with the stone, the English word called stone. That means which doesn't move at all. Which doesn't move, at the same time it is all existing everywhere. That is all over. That means it is something which is present all over and it doesn't move, means there is no movement in that. There is actually no movement in that because in infinity there is no question of any movement. Infinity doesn't move anywhere. Only something which is delimited or something which is avayavi, that which is having a limbs and then that which is having a limited body, only that moves. Something which is infinite, there is no movement in that infinity. Of course, here some teachers, they tell the story of this Ganesha and Kumaraswamy. Our Puranas also, they tell some stories. And those stories, they reveal certain metaphysical ideas. Certain metaphysical ideas are beautifully converted in the form of some stories. It seems once there was a small contest between Ganesha and Kumaraswamy. We know that Kumaraswamy or Kartikeya or Muruga, call you whatever you like. There was some contest as to who should be the chief of all the divine forces, all the army, all the even that divine forces. They are also having some soldiers to fight all these Rakshasas. So the divine forces on one side and Rakshasas on another side. This again, for that also there is another symbolism. I will tell some other time. But this story goes that there was a contest. Who has to be the leader? Then somebody suggested, okay, whoever goes around the world, and then comes back to Shiva and Parvati. Of course, they are sitting there, and whoever goes and takes a complete round of the whole world and then comes back, he will be the leader. Whoever is fastest. Now the picture is Kumaraswamy has got this crow. He is called Krauncha Vahana. Krauncha means that peacock. And the peacock moves very, very fast. And our Ganesha is one gentleman who himself is quite huge, elephant tusk, and then that body also is a fairly huge body. And after all, a rat, a very, very humble rat, is the Vahana. So the Kumaraswamy immediately starts off. He immediately kick starts and then he moves. And Vinayaka is somebody who thinks, who realizes that his own father Shiva, he is the embodiment of that universe. Going around his own parents is like going around the universe. So he just goes around the parents in a very simple way. He just goes around the parents and then sits there. So Kumaraswamy goes to a particular place. The condition was they have to go and touch all the pilgrim places, all the kshetras, let us say, in the world, all the kshetras in the world, and then come back. So Kumaraswamy goes to one kshetra X, and then all in that particular kshetra X, Ganesha is already there, and he has taken bath in that particular kshetram, and he is leaving that place. This man is surprised how Ganesha has already come. Then okay, he takes bath and then goes to another kshetra. There again Ganesha has already taken bath and he is again starting from there. So like that, Ganesha goes everywhere, wherever this Kumaraswamy goes, Ganesha is already there. So and then like that, when he comes back, Ganesha again is there in front of their parents. So then Kumaraswamy concedes, yes, I accept defeat. So then Ganesha is said to have been made the lord of the divine armies. So that is the story, Puranic story. So then what is the meaning of this? What is the symbolism in that story? The symbolism in the story is that Shiva You call it Shiva or Vishnu, whatever it is. Vishnu, in Vaishnava literature, they call it Vishnu. In Shaiva literature, they call it Shiva. So this Shiva is something which represents or who represents that universal consciousness. So that is what it means, that universal consciousness. So it is going around that Shiva is like going around the world. So Shiva is only a physical picture, person who was there. But for purpose of our meditation, for purpose of our mythology, for purpose of our stories, our rishis have visualized a particular person called Shiva or a particular person called Vishnu. But the symbolism we have to see. So here Sthanu, in fact, Sthanu is one of the names for Shiva also. Shiva Sthanu, Shambhurisha, Pashupati, etc., etc. The Sthanu, that name also is there. So here, of course, it is not referring to Shiva. It is only referring to that universally existing thing. We will continue tomorrow. Harihi Om Tat Sat.